What's up, everyone? Jay here from Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with another EDH deck tech requested to us by one of our viewers. Today's deck is for a new card from Battle for Zendikar, Drana, Liberator of Malakir. The viewer that requested this deck was Micah Cole. So Micah, this is the Drana Liberator of Malakir deck tech you were looking for, so I hope you enjoy it. Hope it's kind of along the lines of something you were looking for in Drana, and everybody else watching, I hope you enjoy the deck tech as well. So let's kick it off here and take a look at the general, which is obviously Drana, Liberator of Malakir. She's a 3-cost, 2/3 legendary vampire ally. She is flying and first strike, and whenever she deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. So it's a really cool ability because basically what it'll do is, let's say you attack with her and a bunch of tokens. As you can see in the title of the deck, the idea of it is to, flood the board with lots of dudes and attack and make them bigger. So what's really cool about Drana is the fact that she first strikes. So when she attacks and deals combat damage, she's going to deal damage before all of your other creatures because she has first strike. So she's going to hit, and then her ability is going to trigger and put a +1/+1 counter on each of your other attacking creatures before they deal damage. So essentially when she hits, she's going to pump up your team, and then your team that you're also attacking with is going to hit for more damage. So she's really cool. This particular deck is a big boy EDH deck, I guess you could say, at 100 cards, but I could definitely see her being a very, very powerful tiny leader as well. So something for everybody to think about there. Alright, so first up we will take a look at the land base for this deck. Pretty basic, seeing as it's mono black. So we have a Bajuka Bog for some graveyard hate, Cabal Coffers to get boatloads of black mana, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx to kind of do the same thing. Then we run 32 Swamps, a Thespian Stage, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and a Vesuva. The Thespian Stage and the Vesuva are basically there to, to copy our, not our Nykthos because it's legendary, but mainly to copy our Cabal Coffers to, get lots and lots and lots of black mana. Next we'll take a look at the artifacts that we run in the deck. We run an Altar of the Brood because we can produce a pretty decent amount of tokens in this deck, so whenever another permanent comes into play under our control, each of our opponents mills the top card of their deck. So, with the amount of tokens that we're going to be trying to flood the board with, we can get a pretty decent amount of mill in on our opponent. Then Ashnod's Altar for the free sack outlet that gets us 2 mana to our mana pool. Blade of the Blood Chief is nice. Whenever a creature dies, the equipped creature gets +1/+1. If the equipped creature is a vampire, it gets 2 +1/+1 counters. So Drana's a vampire. We do have some other vampires in the deck as well. So this can, you can suit this up on Drana and she can get very big very quickly. Conjurer's Closet to flicker creatures out at the end of our turn and they come back, so to re-trigger effects. Darksteel Ingot, a mana rock, and then we have Mana Crypt and Mana Vault as some more mana rocks for us, and then we also have Soul Ring. And then lastly, Nim Deathmantle, basically there for the creature resurrection. Whenever one of our creatures dies, we can pay 4 on this, and then immediately bring that creature back to the board and attach this to it automatically. And the equipped creature gets +2/+2 Intimidate and becomes a black zombie. Next up we'll take a look at our sorceries. We run Army of the Damned because it lets us put 13 2/2 black zombies onto the board, and it has flashback. The flashback cost is pretty hefty at 10, but we have some ways to double our black mana in the deck, so it's not, going to be impossible to get there, but, it might take a little while, but, getting 13 2/2s on the board is no joke. Then we run Crux of Fate for a Wrath, Damnation for the Wrath, Dark Petition, tutor that gets us triple black mana if we're Spell Mastery, Decree of Pain for the Wrath, and potential card draw. Demonic Tutor, another tutor spell. Diabolic Revelation lets us tutor for X cards. Life's Finale, another Wrath. Profane Command because it has lots of nice modes. Reign of the Pit will force each player to sacrifice a guy, and then we get an XX black demon with flying equal to the total power of the creature's sacrifice this way. And Ruinous Path to kill a creature or a planeswalker, and if we want to pay that awaken cost for 7, we can not only destroy something, but we can also animate one of our lands into a 4/4. Next up are the enchantments. We are an Attrition, a sack outlet that lets us kill guys, so that's really nice. Bitter Blossom is just awesome. It generates us 1/1 black flyers on our upkeep, and we lose a life. But, that 1 life lost for getting that 1/1 flyer that, we can pump up with Drana, potentially, is probably worth the life loss. Then we have Bloodchief Ascension. When this is primed, it's going to hurt your opponents a lot. So this is something that your opponents will definitely have to answer if, this becomes primed. So basically, at the beginning of your end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, it gets a quest counter, and then as long as it has, 3 or more quest counters on it, whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, this will drain them for 2 and will gain 2 life. So the fact that it's put into their graveyard from anywhere, so if they cast a spell on our turn, that spell going to their graveyard after it resolves will trigger that. A creature dying will trigger that. Something being milled off the top of their deck will trigger that. So there's so many things that will trigger this. Once it's primed, it will drain your opponents out very, very fast. Dictate of Erebos, just Grave Pact with Flash. Endless Ranks of the Dead will get us X 2/2 black zombies at the beginning of our upkeep, where X is half the number of zombies we control rounded down. So we do have some ways to generate some zombie tokens in the deck, so that's why that's there. Then Grave Pact. Oversold Cemetery will get us a creature back out of the graveyard to our hand at the beginning of our upkeep if we have 4 or more creatures in the yard. And Palace Siege, more or less, it's there to serve the same purpose as Oversold Cemetery 9 times out of 10 by choosing Khan, so on our upkeep we get a guy back from the yard. Like I said, 9 times out of 10 we're going to be picking Khans. You can pick dragons to get that, drain 2 life and gain 2 life, but most of the time it's going to be for the creature recursion. Next up are the 5 instants that we run in the deck, which are all just spot removal spells. So we run Doomblade to kill a non-black guy, Go for the Throat to kill a non-artifact guy, Grip of Desolation to exile a guy and a land, Hero's Downfall, just a faster Ruinous Path, and Murder to kill any creature with no color restriction or anything. And lastly, we will take a look at our creatures. So first we run Aberrant Overlord. He's a 6/6 flyer that gets you 1/1 black flying harpies when he comes in equal to your devotion to black, so that's pretty nice. Also, at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice a creature, but if you have, this guy and like a Bitter Blossom down, you kind of have a little engine there to sacrifice dudes to him. But just the fact that he has the potential to bring you lots and lots of 1/1 black flyers is really nice. Bloodgift Demon is essentially a Phyrexian Arena on a 5/4 flying body, so that's nice. He draws us cards. Bloodline Keeper will generate us 2/2 black vampires with flying, and we can pay a black and transform him. If we control 5 or more vampires, when he's transformed, he becomes Lord of Lineage. He pumps your other vampires +2/+2 and still has the ability to tap to generate 2/2 flying vampire tokens. Then we have Crypt Ghast, basically there to double our black mana, and the X stored on it isn't bad either. Desolation Twin is a 10 cost 10/10 that brings a 10/10 token when he comes into play, so he's pretty sweet. Disciple of Bolas will let you sacrifice a creature when he comes into play, and you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the creature's power that you sacrificed. Then we have the original Drana Calastria Bloodchief, a 5 cost 4/4 flyer that you can pay 2 black and X to give target creature -0/-X until end of turn, and Drana gets +X/+0 until end of turn. So she can kill creatures and then make herself stronger in the process. Then we have Endrick Sar, 5 cost 2/2. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put X/1/1 black Thrall creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is that spell's mana cost, and when you control 7 or more Thralls, you have to sacrifice him. That's okay, we want to just try to flood the board with tokens in this deck, so losing Endrick, once we reach 7 or more Thralls isn't the end of the world. we just want to try to flood the board with as many creatures as we can in this deck, and he helps us do that. Erebos, God of the Dead, 4 cost 5/7 indestructible god that isn't actually a creature unless your Devotion of Black is 5 or higher, and your opponents can't gain life, and you can pay 2 and 2 life to draw a card, so makes it so that your opponents can't gain life and draws you cards, so that's pretty nice. Ghoulcaller Gissa is a 5 cost 3/4. They'll let you pay a black and tap her and sack another guy, and you get X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens on the board, where X is the sacrifice creature's power, so that's a way for us to generate some zombie tokens for our Endless Ranks of the Dead. Same here with Grave Titan, a 2/2 zombie token generating monster machine. He's, for any of you that saw our Clash of Kings gameplay, the Tymaret player used this on a Mimic Vat to great effect, so Grave Titan is a pretty menacing force. Then we have Gouldraz Overseer, a 6 cost 3/4 flyer. When you landfall, your creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. If you landfalled with a swamp, your creatures get +2/+0 instead. We have, scroll down a bit here, Kalitas, Bloodchief of Get, a 7 cost 5/5 that lets you pay triple black and tap him to destroy any creature. And then, if that creature is put into a graveyard this way, you get a black vampire creature token on the board with power and toughness equal to the destroyed creature's power and toughness. And we have Liliana, Heretical Healer, a 3 cost 2/3 with lifelink. Whenever another non-token creature we control dies, she gets exiled, and then she gets returned to the board transformed, and then we get a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the board, and then when she's transformed, she is Liliana Defiant Necromancer, a black planeswalker with 3 loyalty. You can +2, each player discards a card, -X, return target non-legendary creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then -8, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So, Hand Disruption, Creature Resurrection, and Ridiculous Creature Resurrection if you get her emblem off. Mardu, Strike Leader, is a 3 cost 3/2. When he attacks, you get a 2/1 black warrior onto the board, and you can dash him in for 3 and a black. And we have Mikaeus the Unhallowed, a 6 cost 5/5 with Intimidate. Whenever a human deals damage to you, it gets destroyed immediately. And then other non-human creatures we control get +1/+1 and have Undying. So if it's not a human creature that we have go to the graveyard, it will immediately come back to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. We have Nezumi Grave Robber, lets you hate on your opponent's graveyard, and then if you exile their last card in their graveyard, he flips into Night Eyes the Desecrator, kind of hard to see because it's upside down, but it's basically a 4/2 creature that you can pay 4 and a black to resurrect any creature out of any graveyard. Next up we have Nirkana Revenant, 6 cost 4/4, that doubles your black mana, and you can pay a black mana to give this +1/+1. So basically every black mana that you tap to invest into making this bigger will give it +2/+2, because you're going to double the amount of black mana, so she can get very big very quickly. Next is Runescar Demon, basically a demonic tutor on a 6/6 flyer. Shieldred Whispering One, everybody knows and loves this card. If you're playing black, you're more than likely playing this card. It's like a black commander staple. Then we have Sidisi Undead Vizier, a 5 cost 4/6 with Death Touch and Exploit. So Exploit is when this creature comes into play, you may sacrifice a creature, and then if you exploit a creature with this, you essentially demonic tutor. It's worth noting that when she comes into play, you can exploit herself to tutor for the card. But, more than likely, with the amount of tokens that we can generate in this deck, you'll probably sacrifice one of your tokens away to tutor for a card. Next is Skeletal Vampire, a 6 cost 3/3 flyer. When he enters the battlefield, you get 2 1/1 black bat creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. And then you can pay 3 and 2 black and sacrifice a bat to get 2 1/1 black bats with flying. And then you can sacrifice a bat to regenerate Skeletal Vampire. So, he's pretty resilient, pretty hard to kill as long as you can keep generating those black bat creature tokens. Plus, the fact that he brings tokens makes it so that he fits right into the theme of the deck. Then we have Smothering Abomination, a 4 cost 4/3. We're going to scroll down a bit here. With Devoid and Flying. And at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. So, with the token production that we have, generally sacrificing a creature isn't going to be a problem for us. So whenever we do, we get some cards off of it. And then lastly, for the creatures, Wormcoil Engine, 6/6 for 6 with Death Touch and Lifelink, and when it dies, you get a 3/3 colorless artifact, worm creature with lifelink, and one with Death Touch. So, Wormcoil Engine is definitely a pretty beast card. And then lastly, I thought the creatures were actually the last part of the deck, but I was mistaken, so I apologize. Lastly, we'll look at the 4 Planeswalkers that we run. We run Liliana of the Dark Realms, 4 cost black Planeswalker with 3 loyalty. You can +1 to search your library for a swamp card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, and then shuffle. Then you can -3. Target creature gets +X/+X or -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of swamps you control. So we can either make one of our creatures huge or more than likely kill one of our opponent's creatures. And then -6, we get an emblem with swamps we control, tap to add 4 black mana to our mana pool. So that's very nice. Then we run Liliana Vess, the original Liliana Planeswalker, 5 cost with 5 loyalty, +1, target player discards a card, -2, search your library for a card, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. Then -8, put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, so mass resurrection from everybody's graveyard onto your side of the board. Scroll down a bit here. Obnixilis of the Black Oath, 5 cost, black walker with 3 loyalty, +2, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. -2, put a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying onto the board, you lose 2 life. And then -8, you get an emblem with pay 1 and a black, and you basically get like a Disciple of Bolas trigger. You sack a guy, then gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. And then we have Obnixilis Reignited, a 5 cost walker with 5 loyalty, +1, draw a card and lose 1 life, -3, destroy target creature, and -8, target opponent gets an emblem with whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 life. So that emblem's pretty pretty mean, especially in multiplayer. If you put that emblem on somebody, they're more than likely going to die very soon. So that about wraps up the deck tech for Drana, Liberator of Malakir. Just a couple of other things to talk about as usual before I sign off here. Nothing to talk about with the color balance because it's mono black. The types of cards, as always, predominantly a third of your deck is going to be lands. We are in 38 in this deck. That's generally like the base amount of lands that Derek and I put into decks. We do have a pretty heavy creature base because we want to try to flood the board with as many dudes as possible, and a lot of our dudes bring more dudes, so that's nice. And then the rest of the deck is compiled of 4 Planeswalkers, 9 artifacts, 8 enchantments, 11 sorceries, and 5 instants. As far as our mana curve, it's a bit wonky, but it gets the job done. We curve up to turn 1, 2, and 3 pretty nicely, and then to turn 4, then the majority of our stuff comes at turn 5. And then we curve downward from there. So, I mean, it's not a terrible mana base. Predominantly 5-cost stuff according to this graph here. If you wanted to purchase this deck as is right now on TCG Player, according to that, this deck would cost you $371.11. So, kind of on the higher end, but, I've seen decks that cost a hell of a lot more money than that. So, it's overall not a bad price overall. Our average converted mana cost is 4.25. The deck can produce lots of types of tokens. It can produce 3/3 worms, 2/1 warriors, 1/1 thralls, 2/2 vampires, 5/5 demons, 1/1 harpies, 1/1 fairy rogues, 2/2 zombies, 1/1 bats, and 10/10 Eldrazi tokens. So, that about wraps it up. So, Micah, I hope you enjoyed the deck tech for Drana, seeing as you're the one who requested it. So if you're still looking to build a deck around Drana, I hope you take some inspiration from this video because it was pretty fun to make it for you. And everybody else, I hope you enjoyed the deck tech as well. So thumbs up the video if you enjoyed it. Let us know that you did so we know to keep making more deck techs for you guys. Leave me a comment in the comment section below the video. Let me know what you think. If there are any cards that you would suggest to be added into a deck like this, let me know. I'm sure there's probably some cards out there that would go very well into this deck that I may have overlooked or missed, so let me know. And if you're not already subscribed to Tap and Turn Gaming, please crush that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it, guys. But yeah, this has been Jay with Tap and Turn Gaming. Again, hope everybody enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot for watching.